So this video is about all these WWE superstars, and it kind of started with Randy Orton, who came out of nowhere and started posting Black Lives Matter. Now I know somebody who used to work at WWE. I think it's MJ Jenkins. She said there was a mass text that told everybody to uh, tweet Black Lives Matter, and Charlotte did it, and Finn Balor did it. There was a bunch of people doing it, so it became like a, a big thing that on the WWE side of guys posting Black Lives Matter and really kind of getting involved during the riots and situation. They weren't doing much. I think John Cena posted a Colin Kaepernick knee down thing or whatever on his Instagram, but this stuff is just useless platitudes, man. Like, these people are celebrities. They're not thinking too deeply about this, especially the white ones. Now, maybe somebody like Cedric Alexander, who I know also posted Black Lives Matter. He's black. He's a little bit closer to this situation. But if you think Randy Orton know the intricacies of everything that's going on in Minneapolis, you're out of your goddamn mind. Randy Orton does something that kind of got to me. Or nor does some of the other individuals who are doing so, like Charlotte and stuff like that. But I'm not going to bemoan them, because a lot of celebrities, they just kind of get in the habit of they see people and where they feel like they are in danger, or they feel like people are hurt or whatever, or angry. They just want to do what they can to make people feel better, and that's ultimately what this is about. It's about trying to make people feel better, but they don't really understand what's going on or why. A lot of people get really caught up in the racial animus of it. you know. But it's not racial, because it's not always about race. It's not about race here. It never is. It never was. What it's about is that, well, let me say that it's going to be very conspiratorial, because I'm of the opinion that a lot of these people are communists, and their ideology states that if you make more than they do, or if you have something, you got it illegally, or you stole it from someone else, and therefore it needs to be taken away from you. Either you give it up through guilt, or they take it by force. So that's what when you started seeing the riots, it took them 3 days to find the police station to burn it, but they burned Target, they burned AutoZone, they burned the liquor stores, they did all that type of stuff because those people were doing better than they were. And then it didn't matter if they were black stores or white stores. It didn't matter if they were big businesses or small businesses. It didn't matter, because it wasn't about the store. It wasn't about the owner of the store. It wasn't about any of this stuff. It was all about people who want to take something from other people for themselves. That's what this is about. And guess what? Randy Orton doesn't know shit about that. He doesn't know. Because he doesn't know that Black Lives Matter is just the Negro Leagues of Antifa. He don't know that. But I know that, because I've been roped into Black Lives Matter before. It's not what the name suggests it is. The name makes it sound easier than it really is. It's not just anti-fascism or anti-racism. It's not that simple. There's a whole host of values and things that they're for that other people are not going to be for. If you actually look through Black Lives Matter, there's a lot of things that go on, like the destruction of the family, fighting the patriarchy and all that bullshit. All that stuff is not stuff that people will agree with, especially these people who are parents or becoming parents. These people support the destruction of the family. Like, I'm pretty sure that Bianca Belair and Montez Ford are not for the destruction of the family. I'm pretty sure Cedric Alexander, who is married to a black woman with a black baby, is not about destruction of the black family. They don't know. They're brainwashed. You know what I'm saying? Like, people don't do research on these subjects. But I don't bemoan them, because one, I don't really care what wrestlers think about most issues. But number two, they're celebrities, and they're usually very, very segregated on a lot of what these situations, what they are. Because you had well, of course, last night the riots were justified, right? Everybody was mad about George Floyd the riots were justified as racism. The cops are racist. Everybody's racist. And and you're supposed to just surrender your property to be burned, and because somebody got mad. But then they woke up today after seeing all the videos of white people burning shit. Because last night everybody thought all the black people was burning stuff, but then they found out that all the people burning shit was white. And there were some black people there too. Like I said, Antifa is not just white people. Antifa are whites and blacks. So, and Hispanics and Asians and gays and all that type of stuff too. All the alphabets, all the id pol guys, all that stuff. All that shit is Antifa. So, because it's all funded by the same people. And they're all anarchists and communists and all that type of stuff. Ain't nothing really wrong with being an anarchist, really, if you want to be honest. But when you're a violent moron, it doesn't really matter who you vote for at that point, right? Because for some reason they're confused, like they're big government anarchists, which is kind of silly. But people don't know that. They don't think too much or think too deeply about it. So I didn't say anything on Twitter about Randy Orton other than he made me laugh when he tweeted that, because so many other people reacted to it, and then a bunch of other people started. I knew things had gone too far when he was arguing with people about it. And I was like, wait a minute, what's going on here? Now, was MJ Jenkins correct in saying that there was a mass text sent out telling people to tweet Black Lives Matter? Who knows? I don't know. And if it did happen, we don't know who gave the order. We don't know if it came from the office, if it's, some people, some wrestlers maybe that want to, band together with protesters or whatever. We don't know that, So I'm not going to bemoan people for doing it. All I'm going to say is that fans need to understand they're not thinking too deeply about this thing. They're not going that deep into it. All they're thinking about is poor George Floyd got killed on camera, and it's upsetting people, and people decided to protest, and I stand with those protesters. That's what they thinking. Once they do it, just scratch the surface a little bit, and you can see that all the real protesters went home because people showed up and started throwing bricks. And then the bricks and the bats and all that type of stuff, those people were breaking windows so they could start fires. And that's literally broken windows theory. Broken windows theory, for people who don't know, is that it's a criminal justice theory that suggests that if you don't break down, if you don't stop crime at its lowest level, you just invite it to continue to grow. In other words, if you see a house and all the windows have been broken because somebody threw a brick through the windows, it won't be long before you start seeing the house full of graffiti. And then before long, the house is going to get burned down. And then you're going to see more houses on the same block that happens that same way. When Antifa was not stopped in Portland last year, when they were essentially running the city and having riots every weekend, that would basically told the Antifa nutheads that they can just have riots every weekend. So it should be no surprise that the moment something bad happened, they took the opportunity to take over. And that's what they did in Minneapolis and Dallas and Detroit. Like, these type of things do not just spark out of nowhere and people just decide to start burning their own neighborhoods down. Now, some idiots are burning their own neighborhoods down, but for the most part, it's people from outside. As we learn, as the time goes on, we're learning that people who have been arrested who are coming from outside of these cities, people from outside Portland, people from outside Minneapolis, who are bussed in, or dragged in by car to these protests, were the people who are starting fires and everything. There have been people who have found big stacks of bricks, new bricks, stretched out on pallets. Like, these types of things have been uncovered because people are paying more attention now. And this is kind of the good thing about Twitter. Like, I know I say Twitter is garbage, and for the most part it is. But when it comes to uncovering conspiracies, Twitter is really good. It allows information to spread pretty fast. So don't be upset if you're upset about Randy Orton posting Black Lives Matter and all that bullshit. or Charlotte doing it. Don't think too much about it. These people do not know any better. They're stupid. Well, not even say stupid. They're brainwashed. A lot of these white celebrities they don't have the time or the energy to do any research on this stuff. You know, like a couple of years back, maybe about 10 years back, Fox News was talking about there's the makers and then there's takers. And what people didn't really understand was it's the people who produce wealth and produce objects and produce things versus the people who feel entitled to take it or entitled to a piece of it. What we're dealing with is a society where people feel like they're entitled to take stuff from you, destroy your stuff, and you're not allowed to defend yourself. One guy defended himself during that entire riot. He shot a looter who was trying to loot his jewelry store or whatever. He got arrested. And he was one of the only people who got arrested the whole goddamn night. That's fucked up. But that's what happens when you live in a society that favors takers. You have a duty to run, a duty to flee, but a criminal can do whatever they want. And Minnesota, just like Portland, just like many other cities run by certain people, they just let them do whatever they want. Like Minneapolis surrendered a police station and it got burned to the ground. It took them 3 days to get there because they were so busy burning down the capitalist patriarchy or whatever the hell. But they eventually got to the police. They'll eventually get to they'll eventually get to you. So, I know Randy Orton lives probably in a nice neighborhood, and so does Charlotte and all these people. They live somewhere nice in Florida. It's not about, they're not going to be victims of this stuff anytime soon. But it will eventually get to them. Because it's not about race. It's about class. It's about jealousy. It's about envy. And yes, the lockdowns helped. There's a lot of people who are upset because they lost their jobs. But a lot of these people are paid operatives. It didn't matter whether the lockdowns happened or not. They were going to do this. They were doing it before the lockdowns. They're just doing it during the lockdown. It does not matter. But last point, just relax. If you see somebody posting something, just assume that they don't know any better, and don't worry about it. Peace.